I'm not your servant, Mother. Those 5 words echoed in my kitchen that Tuesday morning, the same kitchen where I'd made her breakfast every day for 18 years, the same kitchen where I'd nursed her through chicken pox, celebrated her graduations, and packed her lunches with little notes that said, "I love you." But she had no idea what I'd done 3 days earlier. She had no idea that when she walked into that bank with my debit card in her hand, ready to withdraw money like she'd done 100 times before, everything was about to come crashing down. My name is Diane Mitchell. I'm 72 years old, and I'm speaking to you from my small house in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you're watching this, wherever you are in this country, I want you to know that this story is real. Every word of it happened to me. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own home, if you've ever been treated like a burden by the people you sacrificed everything for, then maybe you'll understand why I did what I did. Before we go any further, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to this channel. These stories matter. Our stories matter. Now let me tell you how I got here. 38 years ago, I held my daughter Jessica in my arms for the first time. She had the most beautiful brown eyes, and when she wrapped her tiny fingers around mine, I made a promise. I promised I would always protect her, always provide for her, always be there. I kept that promise. Even when her father, my husband Richard, walked out when she was only 6 years old, even when I had to work 2 jobs to keep our apartment, even when I was so tired I could barely stand, I made sure Jessica had everything she needed: dance lessons, a good school, college tuition. I worked as a dental hygienist during the day and cleaned offices at night. My hands were raw, my back ached constantly, but I never complained, not once. Jessica was my whole world. She graduated from Arizona State University with a degree in marketing. I was so proud. I sat in that auditorium with tears streaming down my face, thinking about all those nights I'd gone without sleep to make this moment possible. She got a good job at a tech company in Phoenix, met a man named Derek, got married when she was 28. I contributed $15,000 to that wedding, money I'd been saving for my retirement. But I didn't care. My daughter was happy. For a while, things were good. She'd call me every Sunday. We'd have lunch together once a month. I thought we were close. But slowly, things began to change. It started small. Phone calls became less frequent. Then they stopped altogether unless she needed something. Sunday lunches were canceled. "Too busy, Mom, you understand." Then Richard, my ex-husband, died 5 years ago. He'd remarried, but apparently his second wife didn't want anything to do with the arrangements. Suddenly, Jessica was calling me again. But it wasn't to see how I was doing. It wasn't to comfort me, even though Richard and I had history, had loved each other once. "Mom, Dad's funeral costs are going to be expensive. Can you help?" I contributed $4,000, money I'd been saving for a new roof I desperately needed. "Mom, Dad's storage unit needs to be cleared out. Can you go do it? I'm too busy with work." I spent 3 weekends sorting through Richard's belongings in the Arizona heat, my arthritis screaming with every box I lifted. "Mom, some of Dad's creditors are calling. Can you handle it?" I did. I handled everything. And once it was done, once Richard was buried and his affairs were settled, the phone calls stopped again, until she needed something else. 2 years ago, Derek lost his job. The tech industry was doing layoffs, and he was caught in one of them. I felt terrible for them. I really did. So when Jessica called asking if she and Derek could stay with me just for a few weeks while they got back on their feet, I said yes. Those few weeks turned into 14 months. At first, I didn't mind. It was nice having company. My little 2-bedroom house felt less empty. But Jessica and Derek didn't contribute to groceries. They didn't help with utilities. When I gently suggested they might chip in for food, Jessica looked at me like I'd slapped her. "We're your family, Mom. We're going through a hard time." Derek got another job after 4 months, but they still didn't move out. And Jessica, she started treating my home like a hotel. She'd leave dishes in the sink for days. She'd take long showers that made my water bill skyrocket. She'd have her friends over without asking me, and I'd come home from my part-time job at the pharmacy to find my living room full of strangers. When I finally asked them to start looking for their own place, Jessica's face went cold. "You know, Mom, after everything we've been through, I thought you'd be more supportive. I guess I was wrong about you." That became her favorite weapon, making me feel guilty for having boundaries. Then the financial demands started. "Mom, can I borrow your credit card? Just for a few things." "Mom, I need to use your car. Mine's acting up and I can't afford to fix it right now." "Mom, can you cover my phone bill this month? Just this once." It was never just once. My credit card bill climbed to $8,000, charges I didn't recognize. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, a weekend trip to California that I certainly didn't take. When I confronted Jessica, she cried, actual tears. "I'm so stressed, Mom. Work is overwhelming. Derek and I are struggling. I just needed to feel normal for one day. Are you really going to make me feel worse about it?" I paid the bill, wiped out most of my savings. They finally moved out, but by then, something had fundamentally shifted. Jessica knew she could manipulate me. She knew exactly which buttons to push, and she kept pushing them. "Mom, I need $2,000 for a security deposit on the new apartment." "Mom, our furniture doesn't fit. Can you help us buy new stuff?" "Mom, the car did need that repair. It's $3,000. I gave and gave and gave. My retirement account dwindled. The roof still leaked. I started skipping my own medications to afford hers when she claimed she couldn't pay for her prescriptions. Last year, I fell, tripped over a rug in my hallway and broke my wrist. I was alone in the house in terrible pain. I managed to call Jessica. "Mom, I can't come right now. I have a meeting at work. Can you call an Uber to get to the hospital?" An Uber to the emergency room with a broken wrist. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, heard me crying and drove me to the hospital. She stayed with me for 6 hours. Jessica showed up 3 days later with grocery store flowers and a litany of excuses. While my wrist healed, I needed help. Basic things: cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping. I asked Jessica if she could come by a few times a week. "Mom, I have my own life. I can't just drop everything because you fell. You need to be more independent." Independent. At 72, with a broken wrist. Mrs. Patterson organized a few neighbors to help me. People I barely knew showed me more compassion than my own daughter. When I recovered, I sat in my kitchen one night and looked at my bank statements. I'd given Jessica over $50,000 in the past 3 years. I was behind on my property taxes. My savings were nearly gone. And I realized something that broke my heart. My daughter didn't love me. She loved what I could give her. 3 months ago, everything came to a head. I'd been diagnosed with high blood pressure and early-stage diabetes. Nothing life-threatening, but it required medication and monitoring. My doctor recommended I reduce stress, eat better, rest more. I was worried, not terrified, but concerned about my future. I called Jessica to tell her about the diagnosis. Maybe part of me hoped it would wake her up, remind her that I wasn't invincible. "That's rough, Mom. Look, I can't really talk right now. We're about to head out for dinner. Text me the details later, okay?" She hung up. She never texted to ask how I was. 2 weeks later, she called me. I actually felt hopeful when I saw her name on my phone. Maybe she'd been thinking about my health. Maybe she was calling to check on me. "Mom, Derek and I are thinking about buying a house. Real estate prices are insane right now, but we found a place we love. The thing is, we're short on the down payment. We need about $20,000. $20,000. I had $23,000 left in my savings account, my entire safety net. "Jessica, honey, I don't have that kind of money right now. I've helped you so much already, and with my medical bills—" I knew you'd say that. Her voice turned ice cold. "You know what, Mom? You've become so selfish. All you think about is yourself. We're trying to build a life here, and you can't even help your own daughter." "Jessica, please understand." "No, you understand. I've asked you for help one time." "One time?" "Jessica, I've given you over $50,000 in 3 years. Silence. Then, you're keeping track? You're actually keeping track of money you gave your own daughter? What kind of mother does that? The kind who can't afford her medication anymore. That's not my problem, Mother. Maybe if you'd been smarter with your money instead of wasting it on that dump you call a house, you wouldn't be in this position. That dump. The house I'd raised her in. The house I'd sacrificed everything to keep. I can't give you $20,000, I said quietly. Fine, don't. But don't come crying to me when you need help. Don't expect me to take care of you when you're old and useless. When I'm old and useless. As if I wasn't already old to her. As if I hadn't already become useless the moment I stopped being an ATM. She hung up. I sat in my kitchen that night shaking. Not from fear, from rage, from decades of suppressed anger finally bubbling to the surface. I'd spent my entire adult life sacrificing for this woman. I'd given up my dreams, my health, my financial security. And for what? To be called selfish? To be told I was useless? That's when Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door. She'd heard me crying through our shared wall. She sat with me, held my hand, listened to everything. And then she said something that changed everything. Diane, you need to protect yourself, not from strangers, from her. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Actually, that's not quite true. I didn't have a lawyer. I'd never needed one. But Mrs. Patterson's son, Marcus, was an estate attorney. She called him, and he agreed to meet with me that afternoon. Marcus was kind. He didn't judge me when I explained the situation. He just listened, took notes, and then gave me advice that made perfect sense. Mrs. Mitchell, you need to establish a power of attorney with someone you trust. If something happens to you, if you become incapacitated, Jessica would normally make medical and financial decisions on your behalf as your next of kin. Given what you've told me, that's not in your best interest. Who would I even name? I asked. I don't have anyone else. Marcus glanced at his mother, Mrs. Patterson, who'd insisted on coming with me. Mrs. Patterson squeezed my hand. Name me, Diane. We've been neighbors for 15 years. I'd be honored. I almost cried right there in that office. Marcus drew up the paperwork. Durable power of attorney for both healthcare and finances, naming Patricia Patterson as my agent. He also helped me set up a revocable living trust, transferring my house and remaining assets into it. Jessica wouldn't inherit anything automatically anymore. I could change the trust beneficiaries at any time. One more thing, Marcus said. I'd recommend closing your current bank account and opening a new one. Don't give Jessica access. Don't tell her about it. She has my debit card, I admitted, ashamed. I gave her the PIN years ago for emergencies. Marcus and Mrs. Patterson exchanged a look. Diane, Mrs. Patterson said gently, has Jessica ever taken money without asking? I thought about the credit card charges, the unexplained withdrawals I'd noticed but never questioned. Yes, I whispered. I think she has. The next day, I went to a different bank. I opened a new checking account and transferred all my remaining funds. I closed the old account. I took Jessica's name off everything, my insurance beneficiaries, my emergency contacts at the doctor's office, everything. It felt like cutting off a limb, but it also felt like taking my first real breath in years. I didn't tell Jessica what I'd done. Part of me hoped I'd never have to. Part of me hoped she'd never need to know. But 3 days later, on that Tuesday morning, she showed up at my house unannounced. I was making coffee when I heard her key in the lock. I'd forgotten she still had a key. Jessica walked in like she owned the place, carrying shopping bags. Morning, Mom. I picked up some groceries. Well, not groceries for you. These are for me, but I figured I'd stop by and say hi while I'm storing them in your extra fridge. I had a small refrigerator in my garage that I barely used. Apparently, Jessica had been using it as her personal storage unit. Jessica, you can't just what? Use the fridge in the garage. Come on, Mom, you're not using it. She walked past me, started unloading expensive cheeses, imported wines, steaks, things she claimed she couldn't afford. "Where did you get money for all this?" I asked. "That's not really your concern." She said it dismissively, like I was an annoying child. "If you're using my fridge, it's my concern." She turned to face me, and there was something ugly in her expression, something I'd never seen before. Or maybe I had, and I'd just been too afraid to acknowledge it. "You know what your problem is, Mother. You think you still have control. You think you can tell me what to do, but I'm almost 40 years old. I don't need your permission for anything." "This is my house, Jessica." "Yeah, a house that's falling apart, a house that will probably be mine someday anyway, so what does it matter if I use the fridge?" That's when it hit me. She was already counting on my death, already planning for my assets. "I need you to give me back your key," I said quietly. "Excuse me?" "Your key to my house. I want it back." Jessica laughed, actually laughed. "Are you serious right now? You're kicking your own daughter out?" "I'm asking for my key back." "No." "Jessica." "No, Mother. I'm not giving you the key. What if something happens to you? What if you fall again and I need to get in to help you?" "You didn't help me last time." Her face hardened. "I'm getting really tired of your attitude lately. Ever since I asked you for that down payment, you've been acting like I'm some kind of burden, like I'm asking for something unreasonable. I'm your daughter. You're supposed to help me." "I have helped you for years." "And now you're done? Is that it? You're just cutting me off?" "I'm asking you to respect my boundaries, to respect my home." Jessica took a step toward me. She was taller than me, and in that moment I realized I was actually intimidated by my own daughter. "Let me make something very clear," she said, her voice low and sharp. "I'm not your servant, Mother. I don't jump when you say jump. I don't hand over keys because you're having some power trip. This is ridiculous, and I'm done with this conversation." She grabbed her purse, left the groceries on my counter, and stormed toward the door. "I'm going to the bank to withdraw money for the groceries. I'll use your card since you apparently don't appreciate me spending my own money to stock your fridge." And she left. I stood there, trembling, not from fear anymore, from relief, because I knew what was about to happen. Jessica walked into the Bank of America on Scottsdale Road at approximately 10:30 that morning. I know the exact time because Marcus called me at 11:15 to tell me what happened. After Marcus had helped me with the power of attorney, I told him about Jessica having my old debit card. He'd made a note in my file that if anyone tried to use that card or access that closed account, the bank should contact him immediately as my attorney. Jessica went to the ATM first, tried to withdraw $300. The card was declined. She tried again, declined. Annoyed, she went to the teller window. This is where it gets interesting because the teller who helped her, a young woman named Sophie, later told Marcus everything. Jessica approached the counter with a smile. "Hi, I need to withdraw $500 from my mother's account. The ATM isn't working." She handed over the old debit card and her driver's license. Sophie scanned the card and frowned. "Ma'am, this account is closed." "What? That's impossible. My mother didn't say anything about closing it." "According to our records, the account was closed 6 days ago. All funds were transferred out." Jessica's smile vanished. "Transferred where?" "I can't access that information, ma'am. The account is closed. I need to speak to a manager, right now." The manager, a man named Robert, came over. Jessica explained the situation, getting more agitated by the second. "I'm Diane Mitchell's daughter. She's 72 years old. Someone must have stolen her identity or something because she would never close this account without telling me." Robert pulled up the account history on his computer. "Ma'am, I can assure you there was no identity theft. Mrs. Mitchell came in personally with her identification and closed the account herself." "Then there's been a mistake. She's old. She probably got confused." Mrs. Mitchell seemed perfectly lucid and competent when she was here. "I want to know where the money went." "I'm sorry, but I can't provide that information to you. You're not an authorized user on this account, and even if you were, the account is closed." That's when Jessica lost it. "I'm her daughter. I have power of attorney." And there it was. The lie. The assumption. Jessica had assumed that as my only child, she automatically had control over my finances. She'd probably been planning for it, counting on it. Robert remained calm. "Do you have documentation of your power of attorney?" "I don't need documentation. I'm her next of kin." "Being next of kin doesn't grant you power of attorney, ma'am. That's a legal designation that requires specific documentation." "This is insane. I'm calling my mother right now." Jessica stepped away from the counter and called me. My phone rang. I looked at the screen, took a deep breath, and answered. "Hi, Jessica." "What the hell did you do?" She was screaming. People in the bank were staring at her. "Where is your money? Why is your account closed?" "I opened a new account." "Without telling me?" "I didn't realize I needed your permission to manage my own finances." "I had your card. I need access to your account." "No, Jessica, you don't." "Mom, I swear to God, if you don't tell me where your new account is..." "You'll what?" Silence. Because what could she do? What leverage did she have? "I can't believe you'd do this to me," she said, her voice breaking, trying the guilt tactic one more time. "After everything I've done for you." "Everything you've done for me?" "Jessica, what exactly have you done for me?" "I'm your daughter. I shouldn't have to list things." "You're right. You shouldn't. But the fact that you can't think of a single thing tells me everything I need to know." "I'm coming over. We're going to talk about this face to face." "No, you're not." "I want my key back, Jessica. You can mail it to me or drop it in my mailbox. But you're not coming into my house. You can't keep me out of my own mother's house. It's not your house. It's mine. And I'm asking you to respect that." She hung up on me. Robert, the bank manager, watched this entire exchange. When Jessica turned back to him, her face was red. Her hands were shaking. "I need you to tell me where my mother opened her new account." "Ma'am, I don't have that information, and even if I did, I couldn't share it with you." "She's being manipulated. Someone is taking advantage of her." That's when Robert made a call. Not to me, to Marcus. Because when I'd opened my new account, I'd listed Marcus as my attorney of record for any issues. Marcus arrived at the bank 20 minutes later. Jessica was still there, sitting in the lobby, fuming. Marcus introduced himself professionally. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm Marcus Patterson, your mother's attorney." "I don't care who you are. My mother doesn't need an attorney. She needs her family. Your mother came to me of her own free will, completely competent and clear-minded, and requested help protecting her assets. She also established a power of attorney." Jessica's face went pale. "With who?" "That's confidential. It should be me. I'm her daughter." "Your mother had the legal right to choose who she wanted to represent her interests. She made her choice. This is elder abuse. You're manipulating her." Marcus remained calm. He'd dealt with situations like this before. "Ms. Mitchell, your mother is a competent adult who made informed decisions about her own finances and health care. She's not being manipulated or abused. She's exercising her rights." "I'll fight this. I'll get a lawyer." "That's certainly your prerogative. But I should inform you that attempting to access your mother's finances without authorization, using her card without permission, could be considered financial exploitation. I'd advise you to be very careful about your next steps." The threat was clear, and it worked. Jessica grabbed her purse and stormed out of the bank. Marcus called me immediately and told me everything. He asked if I was safe, if I needed anything. I assured him I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was heartbroken. Because even though I'd known this was coming, even though I'd planned for it, there was a part of me that had hoped Jessica would surprise me, that she'd call and say she understood, that she'd apologize. She didn't. For 3 weeks, I heard nothing from Jessica. No calls, no texts, no key in my mailbox. Mrs. Patterson checked on me every day. She'd bring me tea, sit with me, let me process everything. I cried a lot during those weeks, mourned the relationship I'd thought I had with my daughter, mourned the fantasy of the loving family I'd always wanted. But slowly, something else started to grow in place of that grief, something I hadn't felt in years: peace. I could sit in my kitchen without anxiety. I could check my bank account without dread. I could make decisions about my own life without worrying about Jessica's reaction. Marcus helped me draft a will. Everything I had would go to charity, a scholarship fund for single mothers trying to go back to school, people like who I'd been, struggling but determined. I also did something else, something I'd been putting off for years. I used some of my savings to fix my roof, to paint my house, to make my home feel like mine again. Mrs. Patterson and I started having weekly dinners. Sometimes her son Marcus and his husband would join us. I'd forgotten what it felt like to laugh at a dinner table, to feel wanted, not needed, to feel valued, not used. Then, 5 weeks after the bank incident, Jessica showed up at my door. I saw her through the window. She was standing on my porch, and she looked terrible. Her hair was messy. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked like she'd been crying. Part of me wanted to pretend I wasn't home, but another part of me, the part that had spent 72 years being kind, couldn't do it. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "Hi, Mom." "Hello, Jessica. Can we talk?" "We're talking now." "Can I come in?" "No." She flinched. "Good. Mom, I've been thinking a lot about everything, about what happened at the bank, about what you said." I waited. "I think maybe I haven't been the best daughter lately." Lately? As if this was recent. "I know I've asked you for money a lot, and maybe I haven't always appreciated everything you've done for me." "Maybe. But you're my mom. We're supposed to work through things. We're supposed to be there for each other." "Jessica, I was there for you for your entire life. I worked myself into the ground for you, and the one time I asked you to respect a boundary, you called me selfish. I was angry. You were honest. That's what people say when they're angry, the truth." Tears started running down her face. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? Fine, I'm sorry. Is that what you need to hear?" "I need you to mean it." "I do mean it." "Do you, or are you sorry because you can't access my money anymore?" She stepped back like I'd hit her. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? Jessica, did you even notice when I was diagnosed with diabetes? Did you call to check on me once?" "I've been busy." "Everyone is busy. Busy isn't an excuse for cruelty." "I wasn't cruel." "You told me not to come crying to you when I was old and useless." Her face crumpled. "I didn't mean that." "Yes, you did." We stood there in silence. The desert wind blew between us, carrying away all the words that had been left unsaid for years. "I want a relationship with you," Jessica finally said. "I want to fix this." "Why?" "Because you're my mother." "That's not a good enough reason anymore, Jessica. You need to want a relationship with me because you actually value me, not because I'm your mother, not because you think you might inherit something someday, but because you genuinely care about me as a person." "I do care." "Then prove it. Not with words, with actions. Show me over time that I matter to you." "How am I supposed to do that if you won't even let me in your house?" "You're not entitled to access to my house, Jessica. You're not entitled to access to my life. If you want a relationship with me, you're going to have to earn it." She stared at me, and I could see her struggling. The old Jessica would have exploded, would have screamed and guilt-tripped and manipulated. But this Jessica, the one standing on my porch with tears on her face, didn't do any of that. She nodded. Okay, I'll earn it. I'll show you." She turned to leave, then stopped. She reached into her purse and pulled out my house key. She set it on the porch railing. "I should have given this back weeks ago. I'm sorry." And she left. That was 3 months ago. Jessica has called me every Sunday since then. She doesn't ask for money. She doesn't make demands. She asks how I'm feeling. She asks about my day. She listens. Last month, she and Derek invited me to dinner at their apartment. A real dinner that they cooked. They'd cleaned their place. Derek apologized for how they'd treated me when they stayed with me. Jessica didn't make excuses for him or for herself. We're not where we used to be. I don't know if we'll ever have the relationship I'd once dreamed of, but we're building something new, something based on mutual respect rather than obligation, something real. And if it doesn't work out, if Jessica falls back into old patterns, I'll be okay. Because I learned something important through all of this. I learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst behaviors. I still have my power of attorney with Mrs. Patterson. My trust is still set up. My will is still leaving everything to that scholarship fund. These things aren't punishments, they're protections. For me, and honestly, for Jessica too. Because sometimes people need to learn that love isn't infinite when it's not reciprocated. That you can't coast on the word family without doing the work of actually being family. My roof doesn't leak anymore. My house is painted a soft yellow that makes me smile every time I come home. I can afford my medications. I have money in my savings account again. And I have peace. Real, genuine peace. I'm 72 years old. I don't know how many more years I have, but I know this. I'm going to spend them living for me, not as someone's bank account, not as someone's servant, as myself. Finally, beautifully, myself.